With the release of Insidious The Red Door, it's now time to rank the franchise. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm going to be ranking all 5 Insidious movies from worst to best, including the brand new Insidious The Red Door. Not a huge fan of the supernatural style movies or the haunted house type movies. It's just not my subgenre of horror. I'm more of a slasher, creature feature type guy. But I think this one has quite a bit of good movies in its franchise. It has some shitty ones, of course. We're going to talk about them. But I'm kind of impressed with this franchise overall. Before we get into my ranking, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy rankings like this so you don't miss out on any future rankings. And without wasting any more time, let's get into this. Coming in the last place, at number 5, I got Insidious The Last Key. Now this one was a real chore to get through, definitely the worst in my opinion. It just drags on. I kept looking at the times like, when is this going to end? The pacing is terrible. They keep using the same formula at this point, but with less quality. Whether you're talking about the storyline or the characters, scares, everything, it just seems so generic this time around. I did enjoy finding out more about Elise and her backstory when she was a child, how they live next to this like penitentiary, and her dad was an abusive father, and yeah, she was seeing ghosts all the time, and that stuff's all real interesting. But that's basically the only thing that I was invested in. Aside from Elise, Tucker, and Specs, I feel like everyone else in this film is completely forgettable. The main monster, the demon, is like this key demon. He has keys for fingers. Not a real interesting background from him either, or his motives. He was just possessing these people to become assholes and abusive. And he like runs his own jail type thing in the further. Very weird. Yeah, he looks creepy, but everything else kind of lackluster. It feels extremely generic, forgettable, and bland. There is one or two good scares in here. It has its moments, but overall, I did not enjoy this movie, and I really felt like the franchise was out of steam by this point. Up next, at number 4, I got the brand new Insidious The Red Door. Tough time placing this one in my ranking. There's some things I love about it, some things I hate. This and my number 3 are very close. So I'm going with the new one, though, at my number 4. We get the Lamberts back. This one's directed by Patrick Wilson himself, the father, Josh. He's stepping in to direct this one. He did a fine job at the directing. No complaints there. But I'm just so happy to have the Lambert family back. But this is not what I was expecting. They're very broken this time around. You know, the parents got divorced over having to keep all these secrets from the father and son who had their memories wiped of everything, so none of this could happen anymore. I really like how Dalton kind of unlocks his memories through his art class, since his art teacher really wants you to draw from the soul in that. I thought that was really clever. On the father's side, on Josh's side, I don't think it's really clever how he started remembering in that. It just didn't really make much sense to me. But I do enjoy all the classic demons and ghosts back in this one. But some of the problems I have with this film is that the first half is just Dalton and Josh, not in the same place either, separated, trying to discover their past. And it just plays out really long. They're just wandering around, slowly being terrorized by these demons as they're starting to remember what happened to them. And it takes a while to get going, I feel. It's interesting to watch, but it does drag on for a little too long without any plot advancement. The second half certainly picks things up, but I do not like the final resolution of everything. It's very unsatisfying. It's like we won the battle, but not the war. And I just feel like they did that because in case they want to make more sequels, in case this movie did real good or something. But it's just really unsatisfying. Not only how everything's resolved, but yeah, it just makes the movie feel pointless, because, you know, this came out way after the first 2 films, which involves this family. So you bring them back, and yeah, it just doesn't end very satisfying. Like, it also kind of lacked in the scare department. There were a few moments like all these films have, but after the first 2, I feel like the scares were never quite as good. Overall, I still enjoyed this film enough. Like I said, bringing back this cast was really fun to watch and see where they were at this point in their life, and just seeing how emotionally broken they were after everything they've been through. It was interesting to say the least, but it's not a great film. Up next at number 3, I got Insidious Chapter 3. This one was directed by Lee Whannell, who is Specs in the film, and he was involved in the writing of all these films and also movies like Saw and Upgrade, all those great films. He's a talented guy. And this prequel takes place a few years before the first two films. We follow Elise and Tucker and Specs on one side of the story, and their side of the story, we're following this family. This girl involved, Quinn, is the daughter, teenage girl, and she is trying to contact her dead mother, but she unwillingly contacts this demon. And while I do enjoy the character of Quinn, I feel like her storyline's kind of paper thin. Basically, after she contacts this demon, she just gets terrorized for most of the movie, but not a lot of plot advancement there. But I do really enjoy the other side plot following Elise and her dealing with her past and her dead husband, and the grief she has with that, and also scared to deal with the further until she ends up helping Quinn out. And our main demon here is this guy with a breathing problem. He has like a breathing apparatus on, and he's okay. I never really found him real scary, but he's kind of interesting how he breaks down his victims so that he can basically use them as like pet slaves in the further. I thought it was interesting. And the whole car accident scene, man, that's crazy. When the girl gets hit by the car, it's really out of nowhere and shocks you. It's a pretty good scare there. But again, I just feel like the way they defeated this demon was kind of underwhelming. It is funny to see Elise in the further fighting with the Black Bride, kicking her ass and calling her a bitch. It's kind of cringy, but kind of fun. Lastly, I just find that this is where the franchise started going downhill. It lacked intention and atmosphere compared to the previous films. It is a bit stronger than the ones I mentioned below. It has its moments, but again, this is where it's starting to feel generic. But I feel like this film is good enough, gets a passing grade from me. Coming in the second place, I have the original Insidious, directed by James Wan himself. What a master at directing. Some of my favorite shots are in this film from the franchise. This is camera work, the way he follows the characters, and that makes you feel like you're in the scene, and the way he like goes down corridors, so creepy, fills the room with tension and atmosphere. He's so good at doing that. And he took this low budget movie, it only was like 1.5 million, made 100 million with it due to his craft. I feel like that was a big part of it. Plus, a unique take on the supernatural genre. We've seen these possession and haunted house movies a million times before, but I like how he made it that the kid was using astral projection to go into this other dimension and opened up the doors for the demons to come in and ghosts. I thought that was just really clever story writing, something we never really seen before. It was unique, especially for someone like me who's not a fan of this subgenre. I feel like this did enough new stuff while being really well directed to keep my attention and have me invested. I mean, this movie's real creepy too. Great atmosphere, dripping with tension every scene. There's a jump scare in here in the daytime. I know you know which one I'm talking about, with lipstick face. I call him Darth Maul myself, but it's in the daytime, so you don't expect it at all. It comes out of nowhere, and it works so well. And there's multiple other scares in here. They do rely on jump scares, but not too much. They don't necessarily rely on them. They use them, but for the most part, they're not just scaring you with jump scares. It's more just the atmosphere and the creepiness of the film itself. I think all the characters are really likable. I love the Lambert family, and just watching how this situation is tearing them apart, especially between Josh and Renee, the mother and father. Just real interesting, because one is kind of passing it off as nothing, the father, and just going to work nonstop because he doesn't want to deal with it. He's kind of just putting it on the back burner, while the mom is driving her crazy because she's left home all alone and has to deal with this on a daily basis. And Rose Byrne and Patrick Wilson are just so fun to watch on screen, no matter what film they're in. They're just great actors, and they really shine on screen. And also I have to mention Lynn Shay as Elise. When she comes in here, she is phenomenal. She's great in every movie she's in. She's always one of the highlights. But in this one, she has competition with the rest of the family, right? But everybody is just so good. The whole reveal about how Josh, the father, had actually passes down to his son hereditary wise, like it's in his family and his genes, I thought was kind of predictable. You could kind of see it coming, but it was still a nice addition to the story. It expanded on it a bit more. And the finale with Josh going in to rescue his son Dalton in the further, I thought makes for a great, great finale. I love that finale. And of course, the final twist where I was thinking the whole time Dalton might come back as one of the demons. Maybe he got possessed, but no, he's fine. The father, Josh, he ends up getting taken over by the Black Bride and killing Elise at the very end. It's such a shocking twist ending, but I absolutely loved it. But the film still has a few negatives for me. I feel like, especially on rewatch, really notice the pacing to this one since they're fleshing out the story and it's kind of a mystery. But once you know it on rewatch, it does move a little slower in the first half. You know, it has a Renee wandering around the house a lot, but it's still done very well. Of course, I can nitpick on like the little bit of CGI used. There's not much, but like when the demon's running on the wall, it doesn't look great, but there's barely any CGI used. It's mostly all practical here, so I'm not even gonna put that on the negative side. Just, yeah, this movie may be a little less rewatchable than my number one, but it's still masterfully crafted by James Wan and a great, great story. But for me, coming in the first place easily is Insidious Chapter 2. What a great sequel, one that I think surpasses the original in almost every way. Well, almost every way. Maybe it doesn't have as great of tension and atmosphere, but everything else is done better in my opinion. It really expands on the lore and the mythology of the further and builds on the Lambert family themselves. A bigger budget, a more elaborate story, and I love how it continues right off the original. It's just like a big movie. You watch them back to back. I really loved how the Josh character in this was possessed for most of the movie by the Black Bride. He goes Jack Torrance at one point trying to get to the kids and the mother, of course. But yeah, that added like a whole other side to the story. It's not just this like haunted house type movie, or haunted kid I should say, but they added like that almost slasher element in there too with his possession trying to kill them. I thought that was just really cool. And I love the whole intro where we get to see a young Josh and a young Elise, and you get to find out that he was dealing with this as a kid as well. And I love how it shows all that, and it adds in a little bit of time travel in there too. How when you go in the further, you can go in different parts of time, different points, and change things. And so clever how there's one point he goes back to the first film, and there's events that happened in the first film. You find out it was really Josh doing them at the door, where you think in the first movie it's a ghost or a demon. Just so clever, so brilliant. I'm a big time travel fan, so that really hit home for me in the supernatural genre. I think the Bride in Black and his mother have really interesting backstories and motives. I feel like they're the most elaborately written villains in this entire franchise. Really great stories on them. How one is really a boy, the Bride in Black, dressed as a woman because his mom really wanted a girl, and it caused him to go on a serial killing spree and everything. Really cool backstories. The whole gender twist thing was really clever as well. And yeah, this story is just multi-layered, whether you're talking about the regular lore that we created in the first film with the further and the supernatural stuff, to the great background on the villains, to continuing to have a great family to watch. Everything is just so good in here. The time travel aspect, it's really a more elaborate and just more thick. There's more meat on the bones of this story than any other story in this franchise. It's a bit more polished than before, which is a little nitpick. I do like the roughness and the grittiness of the low budget original. But yeah, this one still works. And honestly, this is one of my favorite movies in the supernatural subgenre. It's just so well made, man. After watching it too, you're eager to continue the franchise. It gets you on that high to continue, and I love that. It takes the original and makes it bigger, better in every way, and fixes the pacing issues too. The movie just flies by. There's not as many wandering around scenes when nothing happens. Every scene kind of means something in here, and it's just dripping with tension. I don't know if a lot of people agree with me on this one, but Insidious Chapter 2 is easily my favorite and is number one in the franchise. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 5 Insidious movies. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you drop your ranking of this franchise down in the comment section. Let me know what you think of the brand new movie that just came out, The Red Door. And there's my letterbox on the screen if you just seen it. Links to that is in the description of this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.